Welcome back to the Laser Podcast. This is our fourth episode, and today we'll be talking about international qualification delivery with an emphasis on childcare. I'm joined, as always, by my colleague Vivette, and we also have with us Dr. Sarah Rogers, who is CEO of Quest Direct and Eyes Professional Services in Dubai.
Hi Vasco, and thank you for joining us, Sarah. It's always a pleasure to have a specialist guest with us, but especially one that I consider to be a friend too.
Thank you very much, Vivette. Good morning, Vivette, and good morning, Vasco. I'm very happy to be here.
Let's kick things off with a broad question on today's topic, and feel free to both give your perspective on this subject. How does qualification delivery for early years and teaching assistant qualifications differ between the UK and United Arab Emirates, where you are based, Sarah?
Vasco, it's very, very similar in many, many ways. So we still have to keep to all the quality standards that any centre would be in the UK. So we have to keep the integrity of the qualification. So we follow all the learning outcomes. Assessors and the tutors have to make sure that the learners achieve all the assessment criteria. But within that, we do have a little bit of leeway in making sure that the context and the culture, especially the cultural context of Dubai, is met as well. So learners actually understand what they're learning as well within their own context, as well as within the UK context.
It's actually a bit harder for them, I think, isn't it, than just doing a UK one, because they have to know the UK standards because it's a UK qualification, but they also then have to know what's relevant to their local area. So that's very hard for them.
Well, we bring in obviously the UK standards because they have to know those, but those standards are also best practice. And as many of them follow the EYFS, which we'll talk about shortly, then that's relevant for them to learn that as well. But yes, they have to learn both.
That's very interesting. So there are definitely some clear differences there. Sarah, do you need a license to deliver training? And what are the authorities like with regards to checking up on that?
You definitely need a license because at the end of it, it's about safeguarding the learner's experiences. So you definitely need a license. We have been running since 2008 and the license has changed slightly in that time. But the authorities have got much more stringent, quite rightly, about it. We obviously follow our awarding bodies, all their guidelines as well, and all of their quality control too. So that is part of the license procedure in the UAE. But yes, you definitely have to be licensed.
Okay, so that's something to definitely take into serious consideration then. And do nurseries in the UAE follow the EYFS? And also, how well is it adhered to?
In the UAE, the EYFS is followed by many nurseries, but it's non-statutory. So they choose to follow it because it's such a good system. However, there are vast variations in what the EYFS looks like in their setting, because obviously they take into consideration the cultural needs of their children and their families. So while they do follow it, and many, many schools follow it in the UAE as well, which makes sense then to follow it through and have that streamlined curriculum, it does often look quite different.
Sarah, what are the things you most enjoyed about the delivery of early years qualifications in the early years?
So I've lived over in the UAE. I've had the pleasure of living over there 26 years now. And what I've really enjoyed in all that time is meeting many, many different people. So, and through these qualifications and through teaching the qualifications, I've met many different learners from many different backgrounds. So I absolutely love meeting them. I love finding out more about their experiences. And I love supporting them to grow on their journey. So I think I'm proudest when they come back into class and say, oh, I tried that out and that really worked well and the children really enjoyed it. So I love seeing their practice grow, but I also love seeing their own professional and personal confidence grow. And that grows when they understand that they're important and the learning empowers them. So that's really important to me.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. And I've seen some of your social media and some of the responses from some of your learners, which bears testament to the fact that you do thoroughly enjoy seeing them achieve. But I have to ask you then, is there anything that you find particularly difficult with training in the region?
Well, so as I said, we've been operating since 2008, so we're the largest cash centre there. But in recent years, there have been many other cash centres open. And like anywhere, there's always a variance in style and a variance in delivery, which is good. But I think what's been hardest for me on this journey is maintaining the quality across the whole sector. So we work very much with all the stakeholders in Dubai and in the UAE to make sure that quality is still there. So that's been the hardest thing for me, making sure the learners, every single learner gets the best learning experience. And sometimes we've had feedback that sometimes people haven't had that. So that, for me, has been quite hard.
Well, it's really nice to hear that that's what your focus is, of the quality. I mean, as a friend, I do know that that's what your passion is. And so that's really good to hear, because obviously in a different country, you want to make sure that people are getting the experiences in training that they would get here too.
At the end of the day, people invest a lot of time and money and effort in these qualifications, and the qualifications are great. So we want to maintain that integrity for everybody. And at the end of the day, it's about the children in the classroom. So yes, that quality and those quality standards are very important for us, for everybody.
Most definitely. That's a great point. This isn't my personal area of expertise, but I have learned a lot today. But before we wrap up the episode, I think this last question will bring the discussion back full circle to where we started. And that is the UK early years qualification suitable for the region, or would it be better for them to create their own or have an international version?
Thank you, Vasco. That's a really, really good question. As I said, our learners come from a very, very diverse background, so all across the world, but certainly the Middle East, the Far East, Africa. And while the cash qualification is very, very good and certainly fit for purpose, it also would be relevant to have an international qualification that actually met their needs really well. I think we always take it from every learner, we always take the qualification from their starting point as well and make sure they're on the right qualification, for instance. But we often see there are gaps in their learning that maybe wouldn't be there in the UK for somebody following the UK qualification. So we would like in the future to consider an international qualification that meets their needs even better.
I'm so with you on that, Sarah, as you know. I think that it's great that if people are thinking of coming back to the UK, that they do the UK qualification. But I also feel that it might be more appropriate for many to do something that is actually created in that region for the specifics that are going on there. Your passion and knowledge for quality in early years in the UAE is clearly evident, Sarah, and one of the main reasons that you're so well respected. So thank you so much for giving us your insights here.
I've really enjoyed it, thank you. And for me, it is all about empowering people, empowering learners and making a real difference to their practice. So for us, we're delighted to be working in the region. We love working with all the people that we work with. We think it's very important to be aware of the cultural context of what is happening in the region too. And I think being based there gives us that really good grounding in what's going on. So thank you. And thank you for inviting me along this morning.
Thank you both for sharing your knowledge, insight and experience on today's topic. And as always, thank you also to our listeners for your continued interest.